Hello and welcome to the Home and Learn video course for visualbasic.net. I'm Kenny Carney, and let's see what are we going to do today. You can go to the homeandlearn.co.uk website and you'll see the contents page, and you can do the course here, the text version of the course online if you wish. But we're going to do this. What is a variable? Adding a coding button to the form. We're going to do that, and I think we'll do the first three on there in this video. So let's have a look at Visual Studio Community Edition. This is what we had from the previous video. Somewhat colourful form, and you can close this solution down. Click on File and click on Close Solution, and it will close down. And if you create a new project, you can File, New Project, and if you make sure Visual Basic, and it's all on that one for Windows, and it's got Windows Form Application chosen in the middle. And if you delete the default name, type in I think I've got a variables lesson. I'm going to call it my variables lesson. I need to keep this all on one word. Right, so I could put spaces in there if I wanted to. I could call it that. Right, just this. Check the spaces out. Right, click OK, and you will create a new project with the default form. Now, have a look at your toolbox, and you'll see the button there. And if you add one of these, double click it. You can draw one out on the form as you've seen previously. If you move it about, if you change the size, it's got a size property, just like we saw in the form and text boxes. You can expand this one. Type in 130, and the height, type in 30. In the middle, the text. It's well, for this lesson, what we're going to do is add two numbers, and we're first going to display it in a message box, and then we'll display the answer in a text box. So add two numbers. I also want you to change the name property right at the top. This is the name of the button. By default, it's called button 1. Or if you add a second button, it will be called button 2. Delete all that and type button add. And for the name of the buttons, it's always best to come up with something appropriate to what you're doing. So button add, because we're going to add two numbers. Now to get at a coding window, there's a number of ways you can get at the coding window. You can click on Form 1, and if you click on it with the right hand mouse button, you can view code. It's also the button, you can have a click on there with your right hand mouse button, and you'll see again view code. Or there's a third one there, view code right at the top. The easiest way is simply to double click your button, double click it, and it will create a code stub for you. Code stub, that's all that. That's what you get. Let me have a look at that one. Let me contract that one a bit. So there is the name of the button. That's button add. That's what we just changed. And it's something called a click event. So when we click on here, we're going to get code executed here. So your code will execute between private sub and end sub. Everything we're going to write here. Let me do something nice and quick for message box. So we type MES, and you'll see this window popping up. Mess. Right, and you see all the message box buttons. We want this one, message box. And to complete the code, you can either press the tab key on your keyboard, or you can simply double click. I'm going to press the tab key, and it completes it for you. Now type a dot, and you'll see some options appear. You want to show the message box. There's something called a function. Now you want a pair of round brackets, and in between the round brackets you can type direct text with double quotation marks. So you can do hello world, or you'll see later we can put the name of a variable inside here instead. If you leave it like that, and now click on debug, you can start debugging or start without debugging. Let me do something first. I like to center my forms. Start position, center screen, and debug. without debugging. And if you click the button on your form, you should see the message box appear. There it is. Hello world. We're going to be using a message box quite a lot throughout this course, so if you get used to them, we'll close your form down. And if you see at the top of the tabs, if you want to go to your code, back to your code, you can just click on this tab. There's your designer, there's your code. Now we will discuss variables. Let me type it out here. So type a single quotation mark, and this is regarded as a comment. So I can type variables. Everything after the single quote on the same line is treated as a comment, and it's ignored. It's ignored by Visual Basic. And type another one. You can do something like this. You could have plus symbols if you like. Anything you want there, because it's a comment. And we center that one. Variables. Programs work by storing data in memory. You can then manipulate these storage areas later in your code. Let me give you an example on how to set up a variable. You start with the word dim, which is short for dimension. Trying to worry about that one. And you then need to come up with some sort of name for your variable. Let's call this one number 1. And for your names, there can be almost anything, except you can't start a variable with a number. Like you couldn't start it with number 12, if you get the red underline. You can't have spaces in your code. I couldn't do this either. But apart from that, it's practically anything. But for your variable names, if you get a red underline, then it's something that you can't do, or you can't have that name for your variable. So we'll call it number 1. Then you want the keyword as, and then you want a type. So what is going to be stored in here? We want a whole number. There's 3 types of whole number variables. We'll try integer, because you probably know what an integer is, whole number. Let's dim number 1 as integer. So that sets up a storage area. We'll try number 2 as integer. This will be our second number. Again, you can press the tab key to complete. You can double click, and I'll have an answer. Yeah, dim answer as a space integer. To store something inside of your variable, you need an equal sign of the assignment operator, and you do like this. So for the left-hand side of the equal sign, you need the name of your variable. Again, once you start typing, it will pop up on this list here. It's tab key number 1. There's the equal sign, and you want to assign any whole number to it. Number 5. I'll store number 5. If I try to store like 5.5, floating point number, then because it's an integer, that 0.5 at the end will simply get chopped off. And you'll end up with 5. Store something in number 2. Number 2. Move my arrow keys to move down. Number 2, an equal sign, and let's say 3. So I'm storing the number 5 inside of the number 1 variable, and I'm storing the number 3 inside the number 2 variable. If you see here, we had a green underline for these. They'll stay green until you assign something to the variable. And answer has a green underline because we haven't assigned anything to it. There is another way you can store numbers inside a variable. You can do it all on the same line. So you can do it here, like an equal sign after integer. I could have added 5 there, and I could have added 3 there. So we won't do it that way. But the option is there if you want. Let me uncomment those. To uncomment something, by the way, you can simply select the commented area, and you have a look up here. This uncomment the selected lines, or comment out them. Comment them out. You can do that up there. The answer, we want to add 2 numbers. So I want the answer variable. That's where I want to store the answer, and an equal sign in the first number, number 1. Then I want a plus symbol because I'm adding up, and I want that number 2. So answer equals number 1 plus number 2. So whatever is stored in number 1, which is 5, plus whatever is stored in number 2. After the equal sign, this will get completed first. So number 1 plus number 2 will be added together, and the answer will be stored in our answer variable. It will be stored there. And we want to see the answer inside of the message box. So we delete your text, and you can simply type answer. Answer. It may be a problem because you use the plus symbol. So if you type a dot after answer, you can add a to string. Because they're numbers, it will then convert this to a string. But we'll try it without it first. And we'll see. Let's try answer. And we will test our program out. I don't want that other one, do I? Answer. Click on debug. And if we get an error, it's because we're not converting it to a string. Let's try it. Start debugging now. Add 2 numbers. And now we've got an 8. 5 plus 3 is 8. Move that on over there. That's the 8. So the 5 got started in number 1. The 3 got started in number 2. We added them together here. There's still a 5 there. There's still a 3 there. On the right hand side of the equal sign, or this will get summed up, if you like. And then the answer will be stored in answer, or wherever you've got on the left hand side of an equal sign. Let me click OK to that one. And for variables as well, they can change throughout the lifetime of your program. So number 1, so I could do this here. Right, so if I said number 1 equals 10, it starts off with 5, then I put 3 in there. The answer equals number 1 plus number 2. Now if I do that again, answer equals number 1 plus number 2. Right, so the same variable names, you can use the variable names again. And let me see, let me have the message box here. I think I might be confusing you here. Message box.show. So it's my round brackets. Answer. Right, so I've got 2 message boxes. This is the first one. It will display the result of the 5 plus 3 addition. Then I've got number 1 equals 10 now, so I'm assigning 10 to number 1. So 10 plus 3, so I should see an 8 for this one, and a 13 for this one. Debug, start. You can start with debugging if you want. That's the first message box. I move that one out, and there's the second one. Let me move that up so you can see it. So there's the first one, that's our 5 plus 3. That's the first message box. And the second one, which is 13, which is this one. But this one, number 1, is started with a value of 5, but then I've stored 10 inside it, and it overwrites the contents and places the new contents into the variable. We will now display the answer in a text box. So let me get rid of all this. Click that, and if you go back to your form, and if you click on the text box, double click to add it to your form, move it into position wherever you want it, and if you have a look, there's text box 1. If you leave it on the default name of text box 1, and if you click on the text property, if you can see there's a little line going down here which you can move about. So on the left hand side you've got the property, and on the right hand side you've got the value for the property. And you can type anything you like. The default 0 will appear in there. But you can access this text property via code. And let me comment that one out to show you how to do it. So you type the name of your text box, which was text box 1 for us, that one. Then you want to type a dot, and you'll see all of the properties, all of the things that a text box can do. And type TE as the text property, tab to complete, and that equals sign, which is just like that line, that dividing line. Now we want the value for the property, which was answer for us. That's answer. So we're placing answer into the text property of text box 1. And let me run that, see if it works. Add 2 numbers and 8. It's 5 in number 1, 3 in number 2. That's in answer in the text property. You can also get an answer from a text box, or get the text property from a text box rather. So on the equal sign, on the right hand side of the equal sign, you put the name of the text box. Yeah, it's just that text property again, text. And that will place whatever is in the text box into your variable. And you put that back on 5. And I think we'll do some more in the next video. We're going to be exploring these as types, like I've got as integer there. So there's a whole host more. There's as short, as long, as single, as double. And we'll explore the various types of number variables. I will see you in the next video.